Hi, everybody. I wanted to talk about some of the questions that we had today. One of the questions was, what consequences might etiquette rule violators face for breaking any kind of issues that somebody has come across in social media? And I feel like that is entirely dependent on what that rule is. We had a couple of them that got tied in. We had several, in fact. Those being be yourself, be transparent, play by the rules, listen frequently, engage, and be respectful. Those were some of the big beats that they wanted to talk about. And I feel like each of those kind of has its own checks and balances put in place. Be yourself is probably one of the weirdest ones. I'm not really sure how to police that. Because if I use my social media to engage with my friends on a regular basis and that's all I use it for, it's not for a business thing, businesses are going to see that I talk to my friends in a very particular manner, and chances are that manner might be positive or negative. I might be mean, or I might be aggressive towards my friends in a friendly way. I might banter with them. I might curse, things like that. We might have inappropriate jokes. And a business can actually hold that against me. They can sit there and get very, very angry. They can see that I curse a lot and they can find me unprofessional and end up not hiring me, which I guess is a punishment, to be fair. They're definitely right. I get punished. I sat there, I cursed too much with my friends. They saw it as unprofessional. They won't hire me. Fair. I guess I can't fault them for that, although I find it weird that that's a possibility because be yourself then becomes its own kind of double-edged sword because I am being true to myself, as the video talks about. I'm actually hurting my ability to be hired. I can't be myself. I have to be something that is hireable. They say treat it like you're always out in public. Always be transparent. That's the next one. That one is true. That one I can agree with. That one makes sense because if you're just a liar, then people are going to figure it out eventually. If you say, I like eggs, and then you try to work for an egg factory, and it turns out you hate eggs, you've never eaten eggs, you've never talked about them, you're going to have a problem. Play by the rules makes sense too. I mean, if you're just violating the terms and service, obviously you're just going to get kicked off of that social media. People are going to report you, which means that people are going to ask you, why don't you have a Facebook? At that point, again, you're not being transparent because you're lying. You have to come up with an excuse for why you're not on Facebook. Because eventually they will try to find out. People will try to figure out why it is that you're not. Listen frequently makes sense too. If people are talking to you and they're trying to engage you in conversation, you don't just walk off and pretend like they're not there. Because if you do that, people get irritated. I feel like listen frequently and engage are kind of tied together in that sense. You kind of have to do both. Like, you can't just sit there and ignore people. If all you do is talk at people instead of talking with people, eventually people will stop listening. They won't be there for you to talk at them. They'll just go away. And then that's its own punishment in and of itself because you have no way to connect with people anymore because there's no one to connect with because no one cares. Be respectful, I guess, is that senses too. I mean, you can't be inflammatory unless you're being true to yourself, at which point you might be being inflammatory, and that is being respectful to your friends because that's how you guys communicate. But then you get punished for doing that, so then you can't actually be yourself. You have to be a better version of yourself, but then it's a weird gray area that I've never really agreed with. I understand that jobs are going to look on Facebook, and they're going to look on Twitter, and they're going to look on any kind of social media you might be on. But I don't understand why they will use anything on there that isn't directly dangerous to their company to determine whether or not you're hireable. Because then people will eventually catch on. And people are starting to catch on now that they just have to act like a better version of themselves. They aren't being genuine. They actually aren't being themselves. They obviously don't go rock climbing and things like that every Saturday. If for some reason their Facebook says they are, they're being disingenuous. They're lying because they have to be a better version of who they already are in order to make it work. That's not fair, and I don't understand that really. But at the same time, there's definitely punishments put in place. People get fired from jobs all the time for what they do outside of the job now because of social media. Whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's kind of up for debate. Kind of depends on how you feel. But to be sure, there are definitely punishments. Thank you guys. I'm more than happy to hear what you have to say about this too.